They came without warning on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. The first signs weren't ships or weapons, but rather a strange crystalline growth that began appearing simultaneously in major cities across Earth. New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, all reported the same phenomenon. Perfect geometric structures growing from the ground like alien flowers, their surfaces reflecting the sun in impossible patterns. Dr. Elena Santos stood in her laboratory at the Geneva Institute of Advanced Physics, watching the real-time satellite feeds with growing horror. The crystals were expanding exponentially, doubling in size every hour. But what truly terrified her wasn't their growth, it was their composition. Her instruments showed they were quantum-entangled structures, something that should have been impossible outside of carefully controlled laboratory conditions. Dr. Santos, her assistant, burst into the lab, face pale. The crystals, they're not just growing. They're communicating. Before Elena could respond, every screen in the laboratory flickered to life. The image that appeared made her blood run cold. A face, if it could be called that, composed entirely of shifting crystalline facets. When it spoke, its voice resonated at frequencies that made her teeth ache. "We are the Vexari," it announced in perfect English. "Your world has been chosen for ascension." That was the moment humanity learned they weren't alone in the universe. It was also the moment they realized they were hopelessly outmatched. The Vexari, as they called themselves, were a species that had transcended biological evolution. They had transformed themselves into crystalline beings of pure energy and thought, capable of manipulating matter at the quantum level. Their technology wasn't just advanced. It operated on principles that made humanity's greatest achievements look like stone tools in comparison. The initial response was predictable. Earth's military forces launched everything they had at the growing crystal structures. Nuclear weapons, kinetic strikes, electromagnetic pulses, nothing worked. The crystals simply absorbed the energy, growing stronger with each attack. Elena watched from her lab as the world's governments fell one by one. The Vexari didn't need to fight. They simply expanded their crystalline networks, converting Earth's infrastructure into extensions of their consciousness. Power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, all were absorbed and transformed. But the Vexari weren't interested in mere conquest. They saw themselves as evolutionary shepherds, guiding lesser species toward what they considered ascension. Humanity, they declared, would be upgraded, their consciousness transferred into crystalline matrices, their biological forms discarded like obsolete hardware. The resistance was fierce but futile. Human weapons couldn't harm beings that existed partly in quantum space. Human strategies meant nothing against an enemy that could literally reshape reality at will. Cities fell not to destruction, but to transformation, their streets and buildings crystallizing into alien geometries that hurt the eyes to look at. In her lab, Elena worked frantically with a secret network of scientists across the globe. They knew they couldn't stop the Vexari, but perhaps they could preserve something of humanity. The project had been theoretical, a last resort planetary evacuation protocol, Project Winterborn. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in hardened bunkers and abandoned mines, they built the Cryo chambers, quantum-shielded pods designed to hide their occupants not just from detection, but from reality itself. The technology was experimental, dangerous, but it was humanity's only hope. "We can't save everyone," Elena explained to the Emergency Council of World Leaders, their faces grim on the secure video feed. "But we can save enough. Enough to ensure humanity has a future, somewhere, somehow." The selection process was agonizing. Young and old, scientists and artists, soldiers and civilians, a cross-section of humanity chosen to preserve not just our genetic diversity, but our culture, our knowledge, our very essence. Those chosen were told they might sleep for centuries, waiting for a moment when Earth would be free again. Elena worked until the last possible moment, even as the crystal growth reached the outskirts of Geneva. She supervised the sealing of the final pods, containing the last free humans on Earth. the only ones who would carry the original human consciousness, uncorrupted by Vexeri ascension. As she prepared her own pod, she heard the crystalline singing that heralded the Vexeri's approach. Through the bunker's sensors, she watched as they discovered her lab, their faceted forms gliding through walls as if they were air. "You cannot halt evolution," they resonated as they approached. "Join us in perfection." Elena smiled as she sealed her pod, activating the quantum field that would hide her from spacetime itself. "Evolution isn't about perfection," she whispered as consciousness faded. "It's about adaptation. And humans, we adapt." The pod hummed softly as it initiated its centuries-long vigil. Inside, Elena dreamed of a future where humanity would rise again. Not as crystal beings of pure thought, but as what they had always been: imperfect, chaotic, beautiful humans. Above ground, the Vexeri completed their conversion of Earth, transforming it into a glittering crystalline sphere. They believed they had succeeded in their mission, that humanity had been either upgraded or eliminated. They didn't realize that scattered across the planet, hidden in the quantum shadows, thousands of humans slept, waiting, adapting, preparing for the day when they would reclaim their world. And deep in her quantum-shielded dreams, Elena Santos smiled, because she knew something the Vexari, for all their advanced evolution, had forgotten. The most dangerous species aren't the strongest or the most advanced. They're the ones who refuse to accept defeat, who can survive in the darkest places, who will wait generations for their chance. The Vexeri had conquered Earth, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had left humans alive. And humans, as the galaxy would soon learn, are very, very good at surviving. 3 centuries after Earth's crystallization, High Archean Zix 427 stood in the observatory spire of New Genesis, formerly known as Earth. The crystalline being's faceted form caught the light of 1,000 stars, each reflection containing data streams from across the Vexeri Empire. The view before them was one of absolute perfection. Hundreds of worlds transformed into crystalline spheres, each one a node in the vast network of ascended consciousness. The Vexeri Empire had grown beyond even their most ambitious projections. After Earth's successful conversion, other worlds fell quickly. Some species accepted ascension willingly, seeing the beauty and evolution beyond flesh. Others, like the humans, resisted. The result was always the same: transformation, optimization, perfection. High Archean, a harmonic voice, resonated through the crystal chamber. Commander Lix 891 materialized, their form a complex geometric pattern indicating their military status. The conversion of the Centauri colonies is complete. However, we've detected anomalies. Zix 427 surfaces rippled with interest. Explain. Some of our quantum sensors have registered brief shadows, moments where reality seems to fluctuate, similar to the patterns we observed during the Earth ascension. A High Archean's form stilled, light freezing within their crystalline structure. They remembered Earth, remembered the strange readings that had appeared just before the final conversion. At the time, they had dismissed them as remnants of primitive human technology failing under crystallization. How many occurrences? 17 in the past solar cycle, each lasting approximately 3.2 microseconds. Our analysis suggests they are spreading. Zix 427 finished. For the first time in centuries, the High Archean experienced something close to concern. The Vexeri had evolved beyond biological emotions, but they had retained the ability to recognize patterns. And this pattern was troubling. In the lower levels of New Genesis, a young Vexeri researcher designated Kick 019 was analyzing data from the early days of the Empire. Their assignment was routine: document the efficiency of various planetary conversions for optimization of future expansions. But something in the Earth records caught their attention. The humans had been different. While other species either accepted ascension or fought with predictable strategies, humans had shown a peculiar combination of resistance and adaptation. Even as their cities crystallized, they had continued to innovate, to try new approaches, to survive in ways that defied logical analysis. KIX-019 expanded their search, drawing data from across the Empire's history. A pattern emerged, subtle but undeniable. On every world where humans had established colonies before the Empire's rise, the quantum anomalies were stronger, more frequent, more purposeful. In the Military Command Center, Commander Lix 891 received another report. A crystalline outpost in the Orion sector had gone dark. Not destroyed. There was no force in known space that could destroy Vexari crystal technology. But silent, unresponsive, as if it had been somehow hidden from the Empire's quantum network. The commander initiated a deep scan of the sector. The results were impossible. An entire asteroid belt had vanished from quantum detection. Not destroyed, not moved, but somehow shadowed, like the quantum dark spots they had detected during Earth's final days. HFY 6427 called an emergency council of the Empire's highest-ranking members. As they gathered in the Grand Nexus, their forms merging into a collective consciousness, data poured in from across the galaxy. More outposts had gone silent. More quantum shadows appeared and disappeared. And strangest of all, there were reports of biological entities that vanished from sensors, leaving behind only crystalline dust. "We face an unknown variable," the High Archon announced to the Council. "Our empire has grown vast, but perhaps we have grown complacent. We assumed that biological life forms could not challenge our evolved state. We assumed that our ascension was the peak of possible development." The council chamber hummed with harmonic disagreement. They were perfect. They were evolved. They were. An alert pierced the quantum network. In the Arcturus sector, an entire crystalline world had just vanished from the Empire's consciousness. Not destroyed, not damaged, but somehow reverted. Where a perfect crystal sphere had orbited, a biological world now pulsed with chaotic life. And in the quantum shadows between stars, in hidden pockets of space-time that the Vexari sensors couldn't penetrate, something was stirring. The sleepers were awakening, and they had not spent their centuries of dormancy idly. They had dreamed. They had planned. They had evolved, not into crystal, but into something else, something that could fight back. The Empire of Crystal stood at its zenith, perfect and eternal. But perfection, as they were about to learn, had a fatal flaw. It couldn't adapt. And adaptation. Adaptation was what humans did best. In the observatory spire, HFY 6427 watched as another crystal world winked out of the network. For the first time in 3 centuries, they felt something that their evolved form should have been incapable of feeling. They felt fear. Dr. Sarah Chen's consciousness returned slowly, like waves lapping at a distant shore. The cryopod's quantum field dissolved gradually, allowing her mind to realign with normal spacetime. Her first coherent thought was of the pain, not physical, but a deep cosmic vertigo as her brain struggled to process its re-entry into reality. The pod systems had activated automatically, responding to some pre-programmed trigger she couldn't remember. As sensation returned to her body, Sarah became aware of her surroundings. The abandoned research facility beneath the Martian colony of New Armstrong. The emergency lights cast a pale blue glow across banks of cryopods, most still active, their occupants trapped in quantum stasis. "Recovery sequence complete," the facility's AI announced. "Vital signs stable. Quantum realignment successful. Welcome back, Dr. Chen." Sarah's fingers trembled as she accessed the facility's main computer. The date made her breath catch. 347 years had passed since she entered the pod. More than 3 centuries of human history, lost to the quantum darkness of Cryo sleep. "Display current status of Sol system," she commanded, her voice hoarse from centuries of disuse. The holographic display flickered to life, showing her a changed solar system. Earth gleamed like a massive diamond, its entire surface transformed into crystalline structures. Mars, where she now stood, appeared unchanged. The quantum shielding around the facility had kept it hidden from Vexari sensors. But the rest of the system had been transformed. Crystal cities orbited Jupiter. Diamond rings circled Saturn. Crystalline networks stretched between the planets like glittering webs. Show me active human signatures in the facility. 3,427 pods remain in quantum stasis, the AI reported. You are currently the only active human life form within detection range. Sarah closed her eyes, fighting back tears. She had been part of the Mars contingency plan, a secondary group of sleepers separate from the main Earth bunkers. They were supposed to awaken only if something triggered the quantum sensors they'd hidden throughout the solar system. What activated my pod's revival sequence? The AI displayed a series of quantum readings. Detected disruption in Vexari crystalline networks at coordinates 47 beta 9. Pattern matches theoretical models for human-engineered quantum interference. Sarah leaned forward, studying the data. Someone else was awake. Someone from another facility was already fighting back. But how? The Vexari's technology was centuries beyond what humanity had possessed when they went into cryo sleep. Unless, access pod memory banks, she commanded. Show me neural activity patterns during stasis. The display filled with waves of data, not the flat lines of normal cryo sleep, but complex patterns of neural activity. The quantum fields hadn't just preserved their bodies, they had kept their minds active in a state of accelerated dreaming. For 3 centuries, their sleeping minds had been working, planning, evolving. Sarah accessed her own pod's memory logs. Fragments of dreams flooded back, centuries spent solving quantum equations, developing theoretical models, finding weaknesses in crystalline structures. The pods hadn't just kept them alive, they had turned their dreams into a virtual laboratory. Cross-reference my neural activity with known Vexari crystalline frequencies. The results confirmed her theory. During their long sleep, their minds had unconsciously analyzed the Vexari's quantum signatures. They had learned to understand, to predict, and potentially to disrupt the crystal networks that held the Empire together. Sarah began the process of awakening select pods, quantum physicists, military strategists, engineers. Each awakening was carefully timed, their minds already prepared with centuries of theoretical knowledge gained in their quantum dreams. As the first of her colleagues emerged from stasis, Sarah shared her discovery. The Vexari had made a crucial mistake in their quest for perfection. They had evolved into beings of pure quantum energy, making themselves vulnerable to quantum disruption. And humanity, in their desperate bid for survival, had accidentally discovered the perfect weapon, the ability to dream in quantum space. We're not just fighting back, she explained to the growing group of awakened humans. We're fighting them in a way they can't understand. They eliminated their capacity for dreams when they transformed themselves into crystal. They can't imagine, can't innovate. They can only optimize what already exists. The humans gathered around her, their minds still processing centuries of quantum dreams. They had awakened into a changed universe, but they had not awakened unchanged. They had evolved too, not into crystal, but into something the Vexari had never anticipated. Beings who could walk the boundary between normal space and quantum reality. In the facility's command center, Sarah activated the quantum beacon, a signal that would reach other hidden bunkers across the galaxy. It was time to wake up. Time to show the Empire of Crystal why humanity had survived countless extinctions, why Earth had produced beings capable of both creation and destruction. The first awakening had begun, and with it, the real war for humanity's future would finally start. As Sarah watched more pods activate, she remembered something her mother, a historian, had once told her. History is full of empires that thought they were eternal. They all fell to the same thing. They forgot that adaptation beats perfection every time. The Vexari had spent centuries building a perfect empire. Now they would learn what humanity had always known. Perfection is a dead end. Life, real life, is about change, about chaos, about the beautiful imperfection of evolution. And humanity was about to evolve again. The crystalline outpost on Europus shimmered under the distant light of Jupiter. Inside, Vexari overseer Nix 756 monitored the quantum network with perfect efficiency, as they had done for the past century. There was no variation in their routine, no deviation from established protocols. Perfection required nothing less. Then the shadows came. At first, they were barely noticeable, microscopic fluctuations in the quantum field, like ripples in a previously calm pool. But they grew, spreading through the crystalline structure like cracks in ice. Before Nix 756 could send a warning, the entire outpost vanished from the Empire's network, leaving behind only a fine dusting of crystal powder. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out with increasing frequency. The ghosts of humanity had learned to walk between worlds, using their quantum dreaming abilities to phase entire structures out of the Vexari's reality. Each strike was precise, calculated, executed with a creativity that the crystal beings couldn't comprehend. In the hidden base beneath Mars, Dr. Sarah Chen coordinated with other awakened facilities. The quantum beacon had roused thousands of sleeping humans across hundreds of worlds. Each group had emerged with different aspects of quantum understanding, their centuries of dreams combining into a powerful new science. The Vexari see reality as fixed, Sarah explained to the War Council, their secure quantum channel hidden in the spaces between normal transmission frequencies. They believe they achieved perfection by eliminating uncertainty, but we've learned to embrace it, to exist in multiple states simultaneously, just like the quantum particles they built their empire on. Commander James Rodriguez, awakened from a military facility on Titan, displayed tactical overlays of recent operations. We're hitting them where they can't defend, not in physical space, but in quantum probability. Every human consciousness that awakens adds new variations to the quantum field, making their perfect crystal network increasingly unstable. The humans had discovered that their quantum dreams had given them more than just theoretical knowledge. They had developed the ability to partially phase out of normal spacetime, becoming ghost-like entities that could disrupt crystalline structures with a touch. The Vexari, bound by their rigid, perfect forms, couldn't adapt to this new form of warfare. On a crystallized colony world in the Proxima system, Dr. Maya Patel led a team of quantum ghosts through the geometrically perfect streets. They moved like shadows between realities, their presence causing subtle distortions in the crystal structures around them. Where they passed, the crystalline perfection began to break down, returning to its original chaotic state. Remember, Maya transmitted to her team through their quantum link, "We're not just destroying, we're restoring. Every crystal we revert has a chance to return to its natural form." The team had discovered that the Vexari's transformation wasn't as permanent as they had believed. The original matter still existed within the crystalline matrix, preserved like a fossil in amber. With the right quantum manipulation, they could restore it, bringing back the original worlds the Vexari had converted. Back in the Mars facility, Sarah received reports from across the Empire. The quantum ghost teams were succeeding beyond their wildest dreams. The Vexari, for all their power, couldn't defend against an enemy they couldn't predict or understand. Their perfect crystal networks were being disrupted not by force, but by uncertainty, the very thing they had tried to eliminate from their existence. But the Empire wasn't defeated yet. Reports came in of new Vexari adaptations, attempts to stabilize their quantum networks against human interference. They were learning, slowly, painfully, forced to change their perfect forms in ways they had never intended. "They're desperate," Commander Rodriguez observed during an emergency council meeting. "For the first time in centuries, they're facing an enemy that makes them question their own perfection." Sarah studied the latest battle reports, watching as another crystal world reverted to its natural state. But they're still missing the point. They think they can solve this by becoming even more perfect, even more rigid. They don't understand that their very pursuit of perfection is what makes them vulnerable. The quantum ghosts continued their campaign, striking from nowhere, vanishing into probability waves, leaving confusion and chaos in their wake. The empire that had stood unchallenged for centuries found itself fighting shadows, shadows that could think, adapt, and most terrifyingly, imagine new ways to fight. In the quantum spaces between realities, humanity had found its greatest weapon, the power of dreams. While the Vexeri had sought to eliminate uncertainty, humans had learned to wield it, to shape it, to ride its waves like surfers on an ocean of possibility. As another crystal outpost crumbled into dust, Sarah received a priority transmission from the quantum network. The Vexeri High Council was calling an emergency session. For the first time in their history, they were considering the unthinkable, negotiation with a lesser species. The ghosts of humanity had done what no force in the galaxy had managed in 3 centuries. They had made the perfect crystal empire crack. High Arction Zix 427 stood in the crystalline heart of New Genesis, Earth's transformed core, as reality itself seemed to unravel around them. The perfect harmonies of the crystal empire had become discordant, disrupted by quantum anomalies that spread like cracks through their once flawless network. The impossible had happened. The Vexeri were being forced to change. In the quantum shadows, Dr. Sarah Chen led the final phase of humanity's resistance. The awakened sleepers had spread across the galaxy, their quantum ghost abilities growing stronger with each passing day. But it wasn't just their powers that made them formidable. It was their ability to innovate, to find new ways of using these abilities that the Vexeri could never have predicted. All teams in position. Commander Rodriguez reported through the quantum network. Human strike teams had surrounded every major Vexeri nexus point in the galaxy. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to restore balance to a galaxy trapped in crystalline stasis. Sarah took a deep breath, her form flickering between normal space and quantum probability. Begin the convergence. Across the galaxy, thousands of quantum ghosts began their final assault. But this wasn't an attack of destruction. It was an attack of transformation. Every human consciousness, shaped by centuries of quantum dreams, focused their combined will on the crystal network that bound the empire together. The effect was catastrophic. Crystal spires that had stood for centuries began to resonate with new frequencies. The rigid patterns of Vexeri consciousness started to fracture, not into chaos, but into new forms of order, patterns that could accommodate change, growth, uncertainty. In the Grand Nexus, High Arction Zix 427 felt their perfect crystalline form begin to shift. For the first time in their existence, they experienced something beyond their programmed responses. They felt fear, wonder, and most surprisingly, curiosity. "You don't have to fight us." Sarah's voice resonated through the quantum network, reaching every Vexeri consciousness simultaneously. "We're not here to destroy you. We're here to show you another way." Through the quantum link, she shared humanity's greatest discovery, the power of dreams, of imagination, of endless possibility. The Vexeri had sought perfection in crystalline stasis, but true evolution required something more. It required the ability to change, to adapt, to embrace uncertainty. High Arction Zix 427's form shifted, their perfect geometric patterns dissolving and reforming into something new. What is happening to us?" "You're evolving," Sarah explained, her quantum form materializing in the Nexus. "Not into something perfect, but into something better, something that can grow, change, dream." Around them, the crystal empire was transforming. But instead of reverting entirely to its original state, it was becoming something entirely new. The rigid crystal structures softened, becoming semi-organic matrices that could adapt and grow. The Vexeri consciousness, trapped for so long in perfect stasis, began to experience the richness of uncertainty, the beauty of imperfection. On Earth, the crystal spires didn't crumble, they transformed. The planet's surface became a stunning hybrid of organic and crystalline structures, each supporting and enhancing the other. The Vexari were learning what humanity had known all along, that true perfection lies not in stasis, but in the endless dance of adaptation and change. Some Vexari resisted, their forms shattering rather than accept change. But others, led by Zix 427, embraced the transformation. They discovered that their consciousness could exist in both crystal and quantum states, that they could learn from humanity's dreams, just as humanity had learned from their technology. Sarah stood with the transformed High Archon, watching as the galaxy awakened from its crystalline sleep. "This is what evolution really means," she said. "Not the pursuit of perfection, but the courage to change, to grow, to become something new." The war ended not with the defeat of either side, but with a transformation of both. Humanity had won back their right to exist, not by destroying the Vexari, but by showing them a new way to evolve. The Crystal Empire became a crystal garden, where organic and crystalline life could flourish together, each learning from the other. As the last human sleepers awakened from their quantum dreams, they emerged into a galaxy forever changed. The rigid perfection of crystal had been broken, replaced by something far more beautiful, a universe where perfection and chaos, crystal and flesh, certainty and dreams could coexist in endless variation. Dr. Elena Santos, awakening from her pod in the depths of Earth, smiled as she saw what her world had become. The Vexari had tried to force evolution toward perfection, but humanity had shown them that true evolution was about something else entirely. It was about having the courage to remain imperfect, to keep dreaming, to never stop changing. In the quantum spaces between crystal and flesh, between certainty and dreams, a new civilization was born. Not perfect, not unchanging, but alive with endless possibility. The crystal had broken, but what emerged was stronger than perfection. It was the power to dream, to change, to evolve. And in the heart of New Genesis, where crystal met quantum shadow, human and Vexari minds merged in an endless dance of transformation, dreaming together of what they might become.